Okay, hello everyone, BL here, hoping that you're doing well and working on your puzzle one piece at a time. This video is going to talk about, as we can see, the title here, the Wiz Said It All. Now I know there is a choir out there, and so for those of you who are among the choir, bear with me. This will be preaching to the choir, but there are a whole lot of people that are not in the choir. And this is just another way to reach them, to get them to begin to think. And then for those who are moving from the pews to the choir, if you will, just another arsenal, tool in your arsenal, if you will, to help you think some things through. And this is something I toyed with for a minute. Just woke up one day and it just slapped me right smack in the face. So I had to kind of think about it a little bit, what it meant, and if it was something to share, or if it was something that was just for me personal, or for someone that I'm working with. But this movie, The Wiz, I remember as a little girl, I saw it maybe 8 or 9 times, because I really liked it. Not totally sure. At that time, I wasn't sure why I liked it, other than, I just liked it. It was fun. It was funny. It was, I liked the music, just the whole concept or whatever. But as I've aged, I've periodically thought back to the theme song and the overall message. But as I evolve, the more hidden but right smack in our faces meanings or come to light with this. And so I have to say to myself, wow, 30, 40 years ago, however long it's been, this information was available to me. And as many of our parents, they took stuff at face value. They didn't read into anything. They didn't try to analyze what was being presented before them. If we were in a position where those things were occurring, then, how much more spiritual would I be today? How many of us would, myself for sure, and how many of us back then, even up till now, would have been saved the time wasted, and then just the whole concept of dealing with the fact that your life in an organized religion was a lie in a lot of ways. So let's just dig in real quick. First of all, talking about the theme song. The theme song is Home. And as a young girl, I thought I liked the song because I missed home. When I saw the movie, I was visiting away from home for the summer. And I did miss home. And so I thought that was my initial connection with it. But the movie and that song especially resonated with me, like I said, at various points in my life and still today. It's kind of up there with the, Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. Those are probably my 2 all-time favorite songs, in addition to Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. Probably the 3 all-time favorites. And so as I do my work, as I've done my work, when I thought of home, for me, home was not so much the love overflowing as one would think, but in our kind of sort of dysfunctional way, there still was love. And so, and many of our families have varying levels of dysfunction and varying ways of expressing whatever love there is in the home. So, at some point the song talks about suddenly her world's gone and changed its face, but she still knows where she's going. She's had her mind spun around in space, yet I watched it growing. And how powerful is that? That's something we deal with on a regular basis. We're on track. We figured out a plan. We're doing what we're supposed to do, and somebody pulls the rug out from underneath of us, or suddenly the rules flip, so that the path that we've been told to follow all these years to, and I'll use the example of the American dream, especially for people of color. Black people. And when we finally figure out what some of the things we need to do to get beyond our situation, someone decides to change the rules. And many of us still, we're like, okay, the rules have changed, but I still have my destination to get to, and I'm still determined to get there. And so that's what that part says. Suddenly the world's gone, changed its face, but I still know where I'm going. But then my mind spun around in space, yet I watched it growing. That's just awesome in and of itself, because we as black people, we live with our minds literally being spun around day to day. With all the darts that are hitting us from every direction, our minds can't do anything but spin. But at the same time, if we've got right resources, right influence, and if we have that determination that's from within, we continue to grow. And so that's an excellent point there, that in all honesty, over the years, like I said, I've loved the song, but I never really took time to analyze line by line, which is what I've been doing these last few weeks, just kind of toying with it and allowing the spiritual connections to come through and share with me exactly what it is that I need to be seeing and or sharing. And then she says, oh, if you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to believe, to tell us to believe, if we should believe the things that we see. I'm getting it all mixed up. So there's that Christianity, there's that faith, there's that belief in God, which is traditional for black family for sure. Well, let me correct that, not traditional. Traditional since we've been in the U.S., since Christianity has been given to us. It's but she says, please don't make it hard for us to believe what we see. That means we're seeing stuff that we're not believing. And obviously, somebody is seeing some things that they're not believing. And so she's praying, she's saying, God, help me to believe what I see. And at the same token, that in itself is a contradiction, because Christianity teaches you, no, don't wait to see something before you believe it. Have blind faith, believe without seeing. So, again, as a little 10-year-old girl, these are things I didn't pick up on. Should we stay? Should we continue on the path that we're on? Or should we run away? Do we abort the mission? Or do we just let things be? Do we do what many of us have done? We sit down and do nothing. We float through just like a leaf on the wind until the wind blows and blows us in a particular direction, or wait for some catalyst to come along and push us in a direction. That's a strong prayer, if you will, by way of song. God, don't make it hard for me to believe what I see. Tell me, should I stay? Should I run away? Or should I just let things be? Powerful, powerful, powerful. And then she goes on to say, living here in this fantasy world, it is a fantasy, but at the same time, it has taught her to love. And so in teaching her to love, it's real. It's so real. And we experience that. Or we should have experienced it, and we should recognize it. Things teach us to love. Children, they have fantasies. They have little doll babies, and they set them up for tea parties, and they learn how to love and care for their babies in their fantasy world. But what I noticed here was that connection between the fantasy world, the supernatural, the unseen, the other realm, whatever you want to call it, and how it's taught her to love, so it's real here in the tangible, in the physical world. That's the connection between the two worlds. As a child, I didn't see it, but as I'm playing this song over and just watching the lines, I'm seeing that connection was there. And then she goes back with her experience and knowledge to love. So, it's not a fantasy. It's very real. She takes that back with her. Just like as we are now, things that happen in the spiritual world, they manifest in the real, and you carry it out in the real. Prime example here, she has this fantasy world, but she goes back to her real world with the experiences and knowledges that she gained in that fantasy world. It's like, again, those alter planes. The info is taken back and forth. So this whole different dimensions and different planes, whether they're parallel or I don't know, non-parallel, this information was available to us way back when. And we looked at stuff and we didn't look for the meaning behind. We just took it as entertainment, laughed a little bit, got a general message out of it, and that was it. But we have got to start digging deeper into everything that's put in front of us, because there's so much more. I know I've mentioned the concept of duality, but as a person of literature, or not, let me correct myself, as a person who's read, but those who are in the literature or literary arena, they know oftentimes works, whether it's written or whether it's on a screenplay, there will be a plot, there will be a subplot, a sub-subplot, a sub-subplot, and a whole bunch of other plots going on all at the same time. And we've got to learn to look at these arts, these movies, or read these books looking for the main plot and all the subplots. Look for the main message and all the sub-messages. Look for all the symbolism. Look for all of the allegories, all of the ways in which everything is being said can apply to you in your life today. If we begin to do that, and we teach our children to do it, then we look at things with a set of eyes for real meaning. We're not looking at it so much for the entertainment and for the surface stuff that they want you to see. We're looking at it for the real meaning that they're giving to us, and there is that biblical concept of, or scripture that says, for them that have an ear, let them hear. For those who have the eyes to see this stuff will see it. And so we have to begin to teach ourselves, teach our children how to have the eyes to see what everybody else is not necessarily seeing. But the theme song itself is home. Home is where the heart is. We hear that all the time. Home is where your heart is. Home may not necessarily be the place that you were born. It may not necessarily be mama's house. Home may be your auntie's house, because that's where your heart is. That's where you have the strongest memories, the strongest love, whether it's good or bad. But that's again where your heart is. But then it goes on to say, look inside yourself to find a world full of love, like yours, like mine, like home. Your heart is inside of you. So if you're looking inside yourself to find home, you're looking inside yourself to find that world full of love. And the world is teaching us what? To look outside of ourselves. Religion is teaching us what? To go outside of yourself, to go look for your heart, to go look for home, to look for your comfort, to look for your peace, to look for everything it is you need in some source outside of yourself. But this song right here just told you home is where the heart is, and the heart is where inside your body. Now let's talk about the script. That was just the theme song. The movie is about a young girl. She's chasing, well, the version that I saw. And I'm showing it on the screen here with Nipsey, Michael, Janet, and I can't remember who the lion was. Gosh, I want to call his name. I can't call it, but anyway, this is the version that I remember seeing. I probably saw one of the cartoons at some point in school along the way or whatever, but this one, I remember, it stuck out, and this is the one. I don't care how many times they remake it, it will always, in my mind, will always compare to this version. So, the movie's young girl, she's chasing her dog, bad weather, she gets spun up by a tornado, and she gets spun into an alter reality, another world. She goes through a myriad of experiences. She meets many people who are also looking for, things that are intangible, things you can't buy at the store. The lion, he's looking for his courage. He's supposed to be the king of the jungle, but he doesn't have courage. He can't open his mouth and roar and show that courage. Nipsey Hussle is a tin man. He doesn't have a heart. So he's not human. He's not real. He can't love. He's not capable of emotion. And that's the thing that he's looking for. Michael Scarecrow, he's looking for life. He's looking for just to be human, not to be a scarecrow, a bunch of rags, if you will, and leaves, dressed up nice and pretty in the field. So yeah, and I'm sorry, my phone rang. I had to pause for a second. I'm back. So I think I left off. Tin Man wanted a heart. He wanted to be human. He wanted emotions. He wanted to feel. Michael the Scarecrow, he wanted to be able to think. He wanted to be able to act. He wanted a brain. He wanted and everything that goes along with having a brain, instead of just being some dumb little thing hanging out in the field. So there were some real things that they were looking for, but those things were intangibles. Those were things, as you know, the movie goes on later, we realize how they wound up having them. And if I remember correctly, there was they were the Munchkins. They wanted to get rid of the witches. One of the witches wanted the silver slippers. There were some other things that along the way, but these were the main characters I wanted to kind of focus on. So in the process, they follow this yellow brick road to the Wiz, who can do all things. And this is everyone's thinking is the Wiz, this magical person, this godly person, this supernatural person, this all-knowing, all-seeing, all-doing, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent person or entity that no one has ever seen can do all things. They just needed to get to him. And along the way, you know, they encounter all these additional characters who are looking for something or another. Whether, like I said, it's the Munchkins who want to get rid of the witches. Somebody wanted to get rid of a spider, if I remember correctly. One of the witches, and I can't remember which one, wanted the shoes. And as it turns, well, I won't spoil it just yet. And each time they're encountering along the way, their world is flipping. They go from, and the flip is represented in the colors. They're cool. They've got a plan. They're on their road. They've got the road that they need to be on. It's this yellow brick road. Don't deviate from the road, because if you get off the yellow brick road, you're off path. So as long as you stay on the road, you're going to get to where you need to go. And they're doing that. And as they're meeting these additional people or things, everyone is still, okay, we got to get to the Wiz. And along the way, somehow, the world flips. And the color is now red. So everyone must be in red. And just at the drop of a dime, life changes. Everyone is in red. There's a different dance. There's a different celebration, etc. for the color red. So they have to regroup. But they're still on the yellow brick road, so to speak. They're still on their path. They still have their goal, their destiny, and they are learning. Next thing you know, everything changes to green. You know, and I don't know if I have the color sequence correctly, but again, you get the point. How the world just totally flips once they've established where they go to get, or where they believe they need to go to get what it is they're looking for. The route to get there, they're on the way, and they're learning the lessons en route. Someone, the powers that be, whoever the puppet master is, flips and changes the whole world. So, and that's what life does to us. That's what we go through in life, especially black people. And I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about the theme song itself, but that's exactly what happens. So they finally do make it to the Wiz. And it's a task and a half trying to get to him. It's not easy. There are obstacles along the way, but they eventually get there. And that's the message to us. Many times, a lot of us eventually get there amongst a whole bunch of obstacles, but we finally reach the Wiz. And when they get to him and they get through, they realize he's a man. He has no magical powers. He has nothing. He's just a mere mortal, just like they are. But he's got himself souped up. He's hidden. No one can see him. He's puppet mastering everything. He's using technology, lighting, microphones, etc., to give the facade that he's all that, all knowing, all powerful, and he's dictating to the people what they must do. And the people are so engrossed in trying to reach their path or reach their goal and going based on information that they've been taught that he's the one to do it. They're not even paying attention to what's going on other than just to get to him. But what is the Wiz? He is a man. He's a mere mortal. He's broken. He's beat. He's almost a nobody who went through all this to just give himself meaning and power and importance. And what does he really want? He really wants to go back home also. But for whatever reason, he can't get home. So he impacted the lives of these people knowing that he had no power. It was under false pretenses. He basically he lied to them and spent their lives following his yellow brick road along that lie. And so, in the end, Dorothy, she does go home. Tin Man, he does get the heart. The Scarecrow does get the brain. Lion gets the courage. But how do they get it? They each learned that they already had what they were looking for. But it was locked away from them. It was locked away from them mentally. Because they had been socialized to think that they did not have the tools, the resources, and the capacity within them to do. They had been socialized by their environment to believe that they had to go to someone else to get. And they spent all that time getting to that someone else to get what they wanted, only to find out that someone else could not give it to them. And that someone else had to tell them what? No, it's within you. You have it. Now, no, you didn't have any training to get to it. You had no guidance to get to it. But it's within you. So here's a quick thought. It just popped into my head. What if people with alleged mental health problems are really displaying signs that the narrative that's being forced down their throats is a stark contradiction to what's inside their hearts, their souls, and their spirits? What if some of these alleged mental health people are still strong enough in their spirit to know stuff is within them, but society and the environment is trying to force them into a certain behavior pattern, force them into a certain belief, and their insides are just in stark contradiction, stark fighting left and right, back and forth with the internal and the external. And that creates the mental turmoil for them. It's just a thought. Probably a whole separate video, actually. Just popped in my head. But back to the movie. And so once each of these characters do their work, whatever their work may be, and I say that to you all, whatever your work may be, they strengthen their inner selves. And they gather up the guts, the chutzpah, the energy, the cojones, whatever it is they need to gather. They use their energy strategically. And they spoke into being. They energized into being what it was they had been looking for, everything. And they found everything they had been seeking. And that's the big moral of it. What we're looking for is within us. Now, yeah, there are going to be some external forces. There are external forces that are coming at us left and right. And not just spiritual, but I mean physical. And that's, when I talk on some videos about how people are going through stuff and it is our duty to help them. I believe we have to, as externals to them, we have to help them. Because if we can help with the external stuff and make sure they know to work on the inner, they'll get there. But it's hard to work on the inner when you're being bombarded with all kinds of external. As we see in this case, once we eliminated the Wiz, the external, they were able to do what? Turn right back around and get into their inner selves and do their work. And then I asked myself, actually the thing that toyed with why it's taking me so long to put this out was I needed to understand why. Because I literally woke up one day and I did not dream this the night before or anything, but I woke up one day and I was asking myself, okay, what's my next project? What's my next, because I'd kind of done a whole bunch of work and finally posted a bunch of things and was asking, okay, what's the next thing I need to be focused on so that I can be prepared to present? And this movie popped in my head. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So, but I found the correlation between this and life. Between the influences that these characters experience with the influences that we as people experience under religion and the powers that be. We're raised in an organized religion, and my background is in Christianity, so that's what I'll talk about, but we know they're all very similar. They all have very strong roots in the same place, and they all, are Rosalie back to Rome. So as being raised Christian, we're taught to seek God for our answers, our actions, our miracles, our blessings, our healing, whatever it is we need. We are taught to go to God for everything, with everything, even before we look at ourselves. We are taught that we do not have the capacity to do anything, not even breathe, without God. We're taught that we can't trust ourselves to do right. We're taught, and actually we're not necessarily taught this. If you read the Bible yourself, you're taught that, it's because of the dual nature of good and evil within us, etc., etc., and that's a whole nother video, the duality. But that's what we're taught. We're taught to pour out everything, our hope, our belief in God, granting our desire once we can get the request to Him, once we can get our prayers heard. And if it's not happening, we're told it's something we didn't do. We're told we've missed the mark somewhere. We're told we failed to do something. We've told we've failed to get rid of something. We've told we've refused to forgive. We've told, we've sinned. We're bitter. We're something. It's always something that we physically did not do, or maybe mentally, emotionally, spiritually did not do, and that's why God is not granting whatever it is that we're looking for. We're told, we didn't dot all our I's and cross all our T's. But for those who did, who can say, yes, I've dotted all my I's, I've crossed all my T's, I've repented, I've not entered into any unholy covenants, and those that I have, I've broken curses, I've broken contracts, I've done all of that stuff, and here I am, naked as a jaybird, ready to be blessed, Lord. And if He doesn't, then it's a matter of what He chooses not to. You've done everything you're supposed to do, and He hasn't done it, and you can prove somehow, some way, that you've done everything by the book, the way it's supposed to be. If He doesn't, it's because He chooses not to. Or we're told, well, He'll do it in His timing. So now you've made it to here, so you just sit and you wait until He do it, until He's going to do it. If He says He's going to do it, He'll do it. It may take Him 100 years, or maybe not 100 years, 75 years. So you spent your entire life, and when He does do it, if He does do it, you're 75, 76 years old, about to die. But more often than not, people die, go to their graves, never having achieved whatever it is they were waiting for. And they've spent their entire lives doing everything, giving up everything out of themselves, giving of themselves in every way to please a wizard, if you will, who may or may not exist, who may or may not have the capacity to do whatever it is, who most likely does not have the capacity to do what it is you're seeking. And we're never taught to look within ourselves. We're not taught we have the power. We were born with the power. Hasn't been cultivated, hasn't been developed and nourished, but we were born with it. We go through world changes. Along the way, we follow the rules we're given. Things change at the drop of a dime, as we said already, but we comply, all still the while heading toward the Wiz, or toward God. We meet, wicked witches who seek to harm us, to seek to distract and derail us from our objectives, but we continue on. We have to stop and fight those battles, but we continue on. Now, here's the difference between the two stories, between what we experience and what's in the movie. The planes. We never get to see the Wiz. In the movie, they got to the Wiz. We never get to see our Wiz. Most of us die trying to get there. Some of us say we saw something. But doesn't that Bible tell you no man has ever seen the face of God? And just another quick side. If no man has ever seen the face of God, but God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. If Jesus is God in the Son, God in the flesh as the Son, people have seen his face. So how can no man have ever seen the face of God? But that's a whole nother separate. Some die having given up trying to get to the Wiz, trying to get to the God. But again, most die, oh, I'm going to see him, I'm going to see him, I'm going to see him. Then there are those who come to the realization that it's been a big lie. It's been the use of technology, of repetition, mind control, manipulation, and or other manipulations to control us, to control our behavior, to control how we think. Because again, if you control a man's head, you control his thinking, you can control his behavior. Where the head goes, the body will follow. So we delve out. Those of us who come to the realization that it's been a big lie. We listen to ancestral voices and we realize, or some other voices, and we realize we have and we had the power all along to do whatever it is. Sadly, though, some of us are so worn out. We're so full of fluoride, heavy metals, life crap, excessive baggage beyond, if we were trying to fly, airlines would charge us ridiculous money for all the excess baggage weight that we have. But some of us are so worn with all of that we miss the ancestral calls. We miss when the ancestors are trying to talk to us, or the spirits or guides or whomever it is you work with. We miss it because we are so worn out. And again, as far as toxicity, some of us are so physically toxic. The fluorides, the drugs, whether it's street drugs or whether it's big pharma street drugs, whether it's the foods, whatever it is, we are so physically toxic that our antennas are not even working. You know those rabbit ears that we have, our hair, especially for black women, we fried it, so we kind of mess with our antennas. We got to get our antennas back. We've messed up our ability to connect, to get the reception. So some of us won't get it for those reasons. Some of us will make it. And we'll escape the return. We're out of the matrix. We're off the wheel. We've done away with all of that and we've made it. But many will not. And many will have to come back to this reality to try again for the lesson they were supposed to get the previous time. So, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this down. So, parents, let your kids see the Wiz. I encourage y'all to see the Wiz. And for those of you who did not see all these things in the Wiz before, I encourage you to go back and look at it again. Now that you've heard this, go back and look at it with another set of eyes. And start making these parallels. But parents, let your kids see the Wiz and use it as a teaching tool. It's a fun movie, but explain it to them. And don't just explain, oh, they were caught in a tornado and Dorothy wants to go home and Tin Man wants his heart. Not Michael. Scarecrow wants his brain. The lion wants his courage to roar and be the king of the jungle. Make the correlation between what's happening in the movie and what they will experience in life. And give them examples at their age, because the socialization starts at an early age. Show them how quick the world's going to change on them. Even when they follow the prescription, the rules, the yellow brick road, how quickly the world is going to flip on them. And then show them, look what happened. The world flipped, but they continued on. Show them how evil's going to come at them. The witches came. Perfect example. Show them how the Wiz was just a man. And then, finally, parents, show them how they already have within them what it is they need to reach their goals, to be successful, to fill whatever void it is they're looking for. Because actually, all of them, it's a void that they're filling. It's a need. That being the case, I hope some of you were able to get some benefit out of it. Again, I know some of you are the choir and I'm preaching to you all, but feel free to share it with those who are not members of the choir. Just another way to help make the explanation, to help get them to start thinking and making the correlations. That being the case, take care and continue to work your puzzle one piece at a time.